Hey there, Blazer fans. Welcome to episode 4 of The Dragon's Den, a podcast for those that bleed green and gold. Tonight, I've got a different type of guest than your typical former UAB athlete. I've got a former marching band member and a huge diehard fan. A lot of you have seen him at games over the years. It's Jess Taylor. He was a marching band member, but you'll hear all about his story. Jess has been a diehard fan um, for a while now, and even though he's not in the marching band anymore, he is a diehard fan at every game, and whether it be home game or road game now. And he's the marching band director at Gardendale High School, and he's doing great. And I really think you're going to enjoy his stories. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the episode. Hope you enjoy it. All right, Blazer fans, I've got a legend in the UAB marching UAB marching band history and UAB pep band history. Blazer diehard fan. I've got Jess Taylor here. He was a UAB student from 2004 to 2012. Former drum major and band fraternity president. A lot more that we'll get into in the episode. So, Jess, how are you?
Doing all right. Well, I appreciate you having me. I appreciate the podcast. I love listening to it and hearing the stories and stuff like that. So it's cool that this is going on. I'm glad to be a part of it.
Thank you very much. I enjoy doing this for everybody. And this is one of the reasons, if you're listening, you might be a little confused why you're not hearing a former player. But I mentioned at the very beginning, I do want this to be fan-centered as well. So we are going to be mixing in some super fans, and Jess is definitely one of them. As we'll get into in this episode. But Jess, go ahead and just tell my listeners and myself a little bit about yourself, and where'd you grow up, and what did you know about UAB before attending?
Well, I grew up in Trussville, went to Hewitt-Trussville, and graduated in 2004. And quite frankly, all I knew about UAB before I started going to a game or two was they happened to beat LSU once. My mom worked there, and then she kind of pushed me to apply, and it was my first UAB game was UAB Cincinnati basketball, and Cincinnati was ranked. It was sold out, and people rushed the court, and I was like, this is going to be pretty cool. So, it kind of went from there, and saw that, went to another game, and then watched, Mo Finley win against Kentucky and Washington, and it kind of got the spark going.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, what a great first game for you to go to, that UAB Cincinnati game.
I think they were like 12th in the nation. I don't know. It was 3rd or 12th or something crazy.
Well, I remember talking to Mo in that opening episode, and I remember saying that I remember the crowd was so full in the arena that there were people sitting on the stairs, and Bartow was so packed. But what a great memory for you to be, for that to be your first memory at UAB. But ultimately, what made you choose UAB? I know you mentioned your mom worked there, but was there another reason?
Literally, it was Mama. She got she works there, so she got half off, and she said, I think there was a little bit into that where she wasn't ready to let go. I was the firstborn, and I was a pretty good kid, and she wasn't ready to let go. And I was too dumb to realize that, and I was just like, whatever, don't care. They have a marching band, awesome. So. That's what kind of pushed it.
Okay. All right. Well, I can appreciate that. So you got your music degree in 2012, and we'll go in a little bit more in depth into into your time at UAB. But you stuck around as a part-time band staffer, and in 2014, UAB lost the football program. So you were there when the announcement was made to the band, and we talk a lot about the football players' experience after the shutdown, but not so much the band. But from a band perspective, what was that day like for you? What was it like for you and the band on that day?
That whole thing was pretty wild. I remember I was the conspiracy theorist in the whole program. I saw the writing on the wall kind of around La Tech, especially when they underreported the attendance. But specifically that day, we got back from Southern Miss. We took a little pep band because we were kind of seeing the writing on the wall. Won the 6th game, thought, okay, bowl game's possible. Program saved, awesome. Sunday night, things happened. And then I think it was a Tuesday. I remember Monday I went after work, and at the time I was at Bragg Middle School, which feeds into Gardendale. So I was only there until about I work the morning, so it'd be until about 11:30. I'd be done with my classes, so I just went down and hung out in front of the administrative building. And that Tuesday, I remember going in the office and going, I need to be there today. And I talked to my principal, and she was like, "Go do what you feel like you need to do." She was real cool about it. Took a sick day and hung out the whole day and talked to people. And then we got word they were going to cut it. So we marched down the street, and I remember standing in the parking lot. And then I remember we were going, and at the time, Wind Symphony, the top concert band, had rehearsal. Well, then I see them coming down the street with horns. And Dr. Samuels got there, started. She said she started it, and that was the band director at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, we need to be there. So she was like, "Hey, if you want to go, go, or if not, we're not having rehearsal today." So we got there, and it's almost like a pep rally out there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like 200 people standing outside the building. That band's playing, everyone's cranked up. I jump up top on a news truck and take a picture, and we're all sitting there talking. And then the announcement came. So we sat there and started walking back, and I was walking back with my good friend Ralph Marion, and we got to the porch, and Dr. Samuels is out there, and she's like, "I need to talk to the band, don't I?" And I kind of thought, I was like, "Yeah, if they're willing to listen, something needs to be done," because we had heard through the grapevine that the band was safe. There were a lot of question marks, but the band was safe.
Mm-hmm.
So she gets everyone in the band room, and we go in, and she kind of gathers her thoughts in her office, and there's people like full on bawling in the band room, sitting in the chairs, and me and Ralph are sitting in the back, and both of us have been graduated for a while, and it was really hard sitting there watching it. And we were both there like trying to lift people, like not lift spirits, but like be there for people and stuff.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of people that day being like, "Jess, are you okay?" And I was like, "No, are you okay?" And she walked in, and she sat down and started saying something and stopped. And she's like, "This is like telling a kid someone's died."
Yeah.
And it was wild. It was just a weird moment. She told him it was safe. I mean, you can have marching band, and I'm a firm believer marching, like, the history of marching band, it does not revolve around football. But, there are people that sit there for those stand tunes in the games. They're not there for the halftime.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just really hard. And I remember going home that night, and like I shut the door to my apartment, got in my room, and I slid down the door and just started bawling myself because it was just rough. And they continued to fight. Some of them went back out to the administrative building that day and cranked up and were playing. Went out the next day. I'm a firm believer that in those days the band kept things organized and productive, and kept doing the thing, kept fighting. A lot of those people kept fighting and helped bring it back, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know that was really rough, and it was rough for everybody, and I can only imagine. We really don't hear, like I said, we don't hear much from the side of non-players. We hear the fans tell their stories about how it was tragic and everything, but we don't really hear much from the cheerleader side of things or the band side of things, like the people that are involved with it. But not to say that they're the behind the scenes folks. They're just the folks that they're not normally in the spotlight, and it's terrible because you guys are just as involved in game days as as the players are. I mean, I can't I can't think about a game day now where I'm not hearing fanfare. I'm not hearing Blazer victory after games and all that. It's not the same. So I'm glad that y'all are there. This year it was a different environment on Thursday night against Central Arkansas. I'm not going to lie, but it was still nice to see the students and the Blazerettes or the cheerleaders and all that in the end zone, whatever it was. But it was great to see it, and I'm glad that you guys have come back and you're in full force. And it's a different environment this year, but it's still nice to see everybody, and especially in the previous years, it's been nice to still have everything back, and it's been great. So, so going to 2017. You're a fan now. You're still involved with a lot of things with UAB band and stuff. You're an alum, but UAB comes back in 2017, and you were there for the return game. As a fan, what was that day like for you?
It was like a family reunion. Like that was definitely the biggest tailgate. I have a few friends that have tailgate spots, and it was definitely the biggest tailgate we've ever done. We had people flying in from all over the country for it, and we got there super early, and we were just sitting there eating and having a big time, throwing the football around, catching up with people we hadn't seen since like graduation, and it was just it. Talk about the emotions of when it was cut. It was the exact opposite. It was joy. It was happy. It was how in the world. It was the same. How in the world did we get here? But it was definitely in a much more positive tone. But walking in the Legion that day, I'm a weird one. The mindset was just the same as all the other times. It was my first time walking in as a fan because I'd never walked in. I'd never been to a UB football game not involved directly with the band. So it was super weird. But I went up to my seat and sat there, and I always talked about that first note of fanfare. That's when we know the Board of Trustees can't take it away from us again. And that note hit, and I talked about my apartment, crying in my apartment. I cried that entire pregame. There wasn't if there was someone around me that heard a grown man sobbing, that was me. It was beautiful. And then that game was such a blowout. They were so ready to hit people.
Mm-hmm.
So like at halftime, I was just walking around the whole stadium, just taking in, the 40,000+ fans. Cause that's something else that I never thought I'd see. It's like people caring for UAB. It was a family reunion, a celebration, and another step towards some good memories.
Were you was it kind of hard to contain yourself and not be not feel like you were directing the band or wanting to be down there in some kind of way correcting people?
Well, I can relate. This last Friday, they're not letting Jeff co-ed bands travel.
Mm-hmm.
So Gardendale and Gardendale band went there, and like, look, that feeling was there. That first game, it wasn't. That first game, it was just taking it in, enjoying it. I still knew a ton of the staff. And I knew, Dr. Murray had come in, Sean Murray come in, and I went down there and talked with them for a little while in the blowout in the third and fourth quarter. And I always like to get right in front of the band for that last fanfare.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just awesome. A lot of hugs, a lot of things we can't do nowadays. But there was nothing. And once the game started, I was able to get. There's not a lot of people that were sitting around my spot. I was like in section 8, row 58. So I'm able to stand up and scream and yell and do all my usual bull crap that I like doing at games. So there were a few things it wasn't. I wasn't worried about directing the band. I was worried about just having a big time.
So and you mentioned to me in our talks earlier, setting up for this today, you did say you were a student for a while, but you and I know you just said that your first game as a true fan was in 2017, but was there a moment as a student where it just it switched for you from being a normal member of the band and as a student to being like a true bleed green and gold fan?
I can't really put my finger on a moment. It might have been around year 4 or 5 when I realized that, I wasn't doing the usual 4-year path. Music ed might as well be, and most education degrees might as well be a double major. And I did it completely backwards. And after a mental meltdown or two, I just was like, look, why get out in the real world and pay a bunch of bills? So might as well enjoy it. So at that point, it was just kind of started going to more like around that time, I started going to away games for basketball when I could. And finding my core of people, it would travel around and do that kind of stuff. And that was kind of the moment when I was like, you know what, this is cool. Started going to more coaches shows and craziness like that. And it was, I guess, for year 4 or 5, it was just kind of like, yeah, this is fun. I enjoy this.
All right. So you saw a lot of games from 2004 to 2012 as a student, and a member of the band. What was your favorite trip the band went on during that time?
Um, my first trip was New Orleans, but I don't really.
Can I take a guess?
If I said I didn't remember it, that would insinuate I did illegal things, which I did not do on that trip. I didn't do anything illegal before 21. Honestly,
Good.
swear on the Bible. But
Can I
I would guess it would be.
can I take a wild guess here for a second? You
Yeah,
said
go
that
ahead.
your first road trip was New Orleans. Am I going to assume that was the 2005 Tulane game played at
2004 when we
was
played
it
in that dump little arena when
Thad
we were with
Gormley
the BCS.
Stadium?
We were
Oh
24th
my
in the
gosh.
BCS, the very first BCS ranking, and it was a shootout and it was awful.
I was there too, and it was probably the most humid that I've ever felt. It was so terrible, and I'm right there with you. That stadium was that was an experience. But as soon as you mentioned New Orleans early on in your music career, that just brought back angry flashbacks right there for me. So,
Like, why are we still pass the ball? That game. Anyways, I guess it would have to be like some of the basketball trips with Memphis to Memphis, and really the longest one we took was my second year when we played Memphis in the CUSA championship. I really remember the year before when we played DePaul and won on a Paul Delaney. I think no, not Paul Delaney. Sorry,
Demario Edens.
Mario Edens. That last second 3-pointer that felt. I vividly remember it lasting 10 seconds. Like he sat there, looked around, shot it all in a span of a half second. But played Louisville again. I really didn't like Louisville after that game in Bartow, and then we lost. But I guess there was just. I'm familiar with Memphis now because of those trips. So I guess it's one of those. I didn't really go. We went to Philadelphia. That was fun. I saw the blue field at Boise, Idaho, my first year when we beat LSU in the champion or in the NCAA tournament, and played Arizona, which was cool to see. I can't remember his name, that legendary coach that was there at Arizona. But I guess it'd be a Memphis trip.
Okay. Well, I can appreciate that. Yeah, my dad and I went on a couple of those road trips to the Conference USA tournaments back then. So I actually went to the two that you mentioned, the Memphis championship year and the Louisville year. So both great trips. And that's one of my favorite places to go now for sporting events now. So so I mentioned your favorite trip. Was was there ever a game during your stretch that you felt like it was hard to be a band member due to a poor performance on the field by the court by the players, or did you ever, or was it always just a great time with your friends in the band?
I think the two games that it's hard to sit there and say, that SMU Hail Mary in 2005.
That was rough.
And it was more just comical because you saw all the players celebrating, and I don't. This is kind of negative towards that team. Saw all the players celebrating, and me and my buddies along the saxophones, we're like, it's going to be a Hail Mary. Y'all need to play defense, and then boom, and that's SMU's first win in 2 years or something like crazy, or since they got brought back from the dead or something. But really, the most I felt like that was my that last year before Bill Clark. Especially that Southern Miss game, that final game of the season.
Yeah.
That might have been the only time I've ever regretted being at Legion Field for something. Because that was just, and we saw what happened, that he got let go, and then Bill Clark comes and
saves
the next game slaughters Troy. So and of course, as a UAB fan, Southern Miss holds a very sour point in our hearts. But yeah, I think actually that one, and I wasn't that was when I was on staff. But you get through the first half, wow, we played like crap, but we're at least leading, and then you just get slaughtered in the second half like I've never seen before, and it is just inexcusable. And Yeah.
That was a rough one. But my next question will allow you to change. If you could go back and change the result of one game you witnessed in the band or as a fan, what would it be? One game.
Maybe when that Lawrence Kennard shot didn't go down in time
Oh my
for
gosh.
Memphis. When Joe Webb was the first person on the court, rushing the court, and our drummer, Brett Huffman, was the second person behind Joe Webb rushing the court on that one. That one's – and, that's one of my top 5 games, like to this day. And, top 10 has 3 or 4 losses in the top ones because just of the atmosphere and it's just a moment. There's I call them Bartow moments. Like you just look around and you're just like, I'm taking this in because everyone else around you is just doing those things that you see everywhere else in all these other traditional schools. And you go, well, that'll never happen at UAB. And then it happens. You're like, this is awesome. This is fun. Probably because half the people in the crowd, but
Yeah.
definitely probably that one. That would just it'd been nice to see the number 1 team in the nation go down and then it be Memphis.
Yeah, that was that's another another unfortunate memory for me. But thanks, Jess. No, I'm just joking.
You asked the question, not me.
I haven't thought about that game in a while, and that would probably be my number 1 as well. So, is there an underrated game that you remember fondly? Everybody remembers the return game and the block, but what's one game that you remember well? Either in the band or as a fan.
One game in the band, it was when we played Butler. That was that string. I think the game before I'd missed because I was in Chicago for a big music educators like international conference.
Mm-hmm.
And Cincinnati came in here and was ranked, and we beat them. And then Butler was there, and that was, everyone was touting them as this awesome team, and they were. I mean, that was when they were really, really good. And we come in, and there was this point in the second half where we stole it 2 or 3 times in a row and dunked it every time. And I vividly remember just screaming like a child, "I'm so happy!" And they called like 2 timeouts in a row because it was just too much. And it was a December game that was pretty close to being absolutely packed. And those are the kind of things that I think UAB can be. Football, I know you said one. Football, maybe the first time we beat Southern Miss, or the time when we won the West against Southern Miss that first time. That first game, I was drum major, but I was just in the stands. And you see that interception, and I remember listening to the call afterwards, and I think it's John Gentile is just like, it wasn't David Crane, it's whoever's with him, and he goes, get down, put it in, and he just puts the end zone and gets that unsportsmanlike, and it's the most deserved unsportsmanlike conduct flag ever. But those, yeah, I think it might be that one over the one in the West, even though that West one was so frustrating all night. Spencer couldn't break through, and the moment he breaks through, he wins the game.
Yep, exactly. No, those are both great. And I appreciate the basketball one too. That's one I hadn't remembered in a while too. But that was a great year. I mean, I believe we packed out. We played somebody VCU that year, I believe, as well, and we were down by like 19 in that season.
That might have been the VCU year, wasn't it? Yeah, we were down. It wasn't. It was like 22. It was the biggest we've ever had, and then they decided to play with a guy's ball and not the girl's ball, and we start scoring.
Gotcha. So from a former student alumnus perspective and a diehard fan, what can you say about the growth of UAB as a school since your start in 2004?
I think when I started, they had just opened up the renovations for the Halsey Center. That's the music building on campus. So seeing that newness compared to a lot of the other stuff on campus, like the time at the Hill Center, that when I started, there was a 14th Street math building, I think it was. I took a math class in there. That's where the green was. There was a street that was, I think it was either the street was the green or there were a lot of parking lots where the green was. And the Hill Center had that Chick-fil-A in it. And, some of Campbell Hall's still around. But I remember having a class in there, and it just felt like an old school. The humanities building, which is still their education building, which they've just now moved. But a lot of the, Heritage Hall wasn't there, things like that. I think once the Commons and the Green hit, I was just like, holy crap, this is great. And it's gotten a lot bigger. And I say all that about it just feeling kind of old. I have a lot of students who go to UAB. They were taking tours this last year. I had one girl who's on color guard now, Danielle, and she came back from her tour and she was like, Mr. Taylor, I was not thinking this was going to be as good as it was. And we walked into these classrooms and they were like brand spanking new. And she had taken a tour of a very close by, right out of state Power 5 school. And she said, it's nice to know that at UAB, they care a lot about the athletics and the education, because that's what I'm there for, is an education. So I took a lot of pride in when she told me that. And she had a bunch of other kids that are there now, some of them in the band, and some of them, one of them is on Golden Girls now. And, they were all just like, holy crap, this is awesome. It's very nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. From a music perspective, we know that you, we know you played the saxophone when you were at UAB, but can you play any other instruments?
I dabbled a little bit on bass guitar in high school, and then I can technically make noise on all the other ones in order to show like a beginner how to play them. I think you kind of have to make noise on them to be a band director. I can play better than a brand new beginner, but I definitely can't play trumpet or tuba as good as some of my kids in the band and the Gardendale band now.
Is there a classic song or something you like to play on the saxophone, or is there a favorite song you like to play?
Fanfare? No. Really, not really. Well, actually, our jazz band at Gardendale, I kind of put Tuxedo Junction, which is that's what Fanfare is based off of. That's one of our little standards we do every year. Super easy arrangement. The kids sound great on it, but I enjoy playing that. Maybe for more personal reasons, because all the notes are the exact same as Fanfare a lot of the time. But it's one of those cool songs that's about a Birmingham and Gardendale, even though it's a suburb. Like there are a lot of kids that go take pictures in Birmingham or hang out in Birmingham on the weekend. So, it gives me a chance to talk about some Birmingham stuff up there in the suburbs.
Okay. What's your favorite part about playing music? I know that might be a loaded question, but what was your favorite part about playing?
It kind of, this is going to be really cliche. It's just one of those moments, and especially now, with everything that's going on in the world, it gives me an opportunity to just kind of forget about everything. I usually get that from band directing, but lately, because we've had to think about so many safety measures and all this stuff with COVID-19, I've not had as much of that escape moments with being a band director. But playing music, if I pick up my saxophone, I'm gonna forget about the craziness of the world for a little bit. And that I'm absolutely privileged to be able to do that, and be able to forget for 30 minutes anything that's going on. But it's just, you need that detoxing moment. And it's what always gave it to me. And I wasn't super popular in high school, and people picked on me because people used to call me Carrot Top and all that junk. And, but it was that moment where I felt like I belonged somewhere with that band, at Hewitt and then at UAB too. You get on campus, and I'm pretty shy, honestly. People don't believe it, but
I don't.
But it gives you that instant connection. You play music with someone, it doesn't matter who it is. There's a connection that happens. That's a little bit more. It's more than mental or physical or anything. It's on an emotional level, and it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. So, what's your favorite part about being a UAB fan?
I guess watching it grow. One of those things, one of the positives out of the football cuts, is like it opened my eyes to realize that there are more people like me. I all the people I went to high school with, most of them, I should say, went to big SEC schools and things like that, or JSU or Troy or something like that, more traditional schools. And unfortunately, I don't keep up with a lot. I think I talked to one guy about once every few months who went to Auburn. And, to know that there's a community that loves this team as much as I do, that was nice to see in those moments. And nice to hear people's stories, because everyone's got their story about UAB. It's not just some blind, hey, my parents watched Alabama football. There's a lot of meaning to the stories UAB fans have. So really watching the growth and hearing the stories, and even now on the other end of it, being a teacher, being able to follow former student stories and talk to them and hear them say similar things, or talk about, man, the grain is just so dull today, or man, the food in the Commons is just blah. And it's like, well, it's not Chick-fil-A from the Hill Center, I know, but that's the coolest thing. It definitely the stories and the growth.
Awesome. So not only were you a part-time band staffer in 2012, you mentioned a little earlier, you started your post-college jobs, and you started in the Gardendale area as middle school assistant band director, and you are now in your 5th year as the high school band director at Gardendale High School. So how has your time at Gardendale been?
It's been awesome. Sometimes I hashtag living the dream, and I was a person. When I came through up in high school, my high school band director retired after a very long stint at Hewitt-Trussell, Mike Jones, after my junior year. And I always thought, like, I wanted to do that. And you hear stories about people jumping jobs a lot. And it's not about, like, not being loyal or whatever. It's just like, and as an adult now, I understand, things happen. You have kids, you get married, you whatever. But Gardendale is somewhere I feel like I could really retire from. And it's nice seeing how that group has taken to even the craziness of my Blazer fandom at times. It's been real good. We've seen a lot of growth until this year, but a lot of bands are taking hits because of the COVID stuff. And I do believe I teach the best kids on campus, because they've just worked through it. And, there's a lot of different people that believe a lot of different things about stuff in Gardendale, but I watch every day I get to see them twice a week, 3 times a week. Kids come in and they may not believe that masks work or that COVID's a real thing, but they wear their mask because they want to have band. And there's a lot of people that care about it up there, and the support's pretty good. So it's definitely, it fell into my lap, and I'm really lucky for that debate. I'm blessed and all that stuff, and it really is living the dream.
Awesome. So, outside of band and UAB, how is your life now?
Got married in June.
Congratulations.
To an Alabama grad.
Ooh.
But she's actually been to more UAB games, and she's if you see someone standing up next to me yelling, screaming, that's her. It's Emily, and she's awesome. Got her a season ticket. So, hey, she came to the championship game and not the Iron Bowl 2 years ago. So, like,
that's a start. Nice.
Hey, you got to turn them when you can. But other than the Gardendale stuff, that's kind of the big part of the 2 big things in my life. We all sat inside for 6 months, and the first time I went outside, I got a bad sunburn because I'm a ginger. But it's just what it is. Okay. It's pretty good.
Awesome, man. And I've got a few more questions here, and then we'll wrap things up. But I see you're a fan of The Office, and I am as well. So what's your favorite line from the show, if you've got one?
One. I feel like you've asked me to have one, and I've always had like 7. I guess it would have to be. It'd have to be that last one from Andy Bernard in the finale, the series finale, when he talks about. I'm probably going to misquote it if I try. It talks about the good old days and wish you were in them. And I've actually thought about that quote a lot lately because of, mentioned I went to the Gardendale Pinson game and wasn't able to get on the headset and go, hey, yell and scream and do stuff. Like, I will never take an away trip. The stress of an away trip, taking 100 and some odd kids to an away game for granted again, because that honestly was like top 15 worst night of my life, which means I'm living a pretty good life. Of a football game I'm not working is the worst, one of the worst ones. But definitely that one about realizing, appreciating the days you have and trying just to soak them up.
And who's your favorite character?
Oh man, if I could look like Jim Halpert, man, my wife would probably be a lot happier. It's got to be the whole Michael Scott, how he starts off, like the whole arc of him, just all throughout. How he starts off as like the worst boss ever, and the cliched and you see him struggle as a person. He just wants to be liked. He just wants to be loved. And finally, he finds said love and finds the admiration of his coworkers and his employees. And by the end of it, everyone's sobbing because he's gone. And then he comes back, and that might be my second favorite one-liner. But I'll leave that one for people to find in the series finale.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, so I've got a couple of questions from my listeners here on social media. The first one comes from Van Rogers on Facebook. Do you know Van?
Yeah, he was a music camp. I think he did music camp while I was a counselor for that, and then he was in the band. I don't know if he was in band my last year. My last year was not a drum major year. Year 8 was like I took 2 Saturday classes. Like they met for 2 Saturdays, and then I marched. It was the dream, like literally. I don't know if he was there that year or if he came a year or two later, but he was there when I was on staff.
Okay. Well, he asked, could you ask Jess Taylor if his mind was made up on being a band director before his time at UAB, and if not, what were some of the things that had him change his mind?
It was my senior year. My high school band director, Scott Wade, who had taken over for the previous one. We were walking off the practice or walking to it. I don't know which. He asked me, what do I want to do? I was like, I want to do marching band for the rest of my life. And he goes, you can't do that and make money, Jess. And I go, well, what do I do then? And he said, be a band director. I was like, all right, I'll be a band director. And that's like, literally, we can sit here and have all these sunshine and lollipops. I want to spread, empower people through music. Now, like, I want to do all that. I want to do marching band. That's all. I mean, I have fun doing that stuff and being involved in that activity.
Okay. And another question here from Connor Gentry, and you and I both know Connor well. Connor's a buddy of mine. We worked at the Kaleidoscope at UAB. For anybody that wants to look him up on Twitter, his handle is at ZC Gentry. Connor Gentry again. He asks, how does it feel to be in a video game? And Jess, I'm going to need a backstory here. What's this all about?
So it's actually 2. It's just a picture of me. It's NCAA 07 on PS2. That's the one I have.
Mm-hmm.
That was actually the first game I bought, the first game NCAA football game I got because I was in it. You said your favorite team is UAB. There's a picture of me playing. It's the Sac Sully from 2005 in Sir Duke. And then it's also in 2011 on, I know, Xbox 360. I would assume that would be PS3 also. Same picture except in high def, so you can see that there was that weird time in my life when my hair used to be down to right above my butt, and I wasn't shaving a lot, and it was just patchy. But they, for whatever reason, they decided to put Crazy Barry Sachs me in there, and it's just a picture. But it did check a box. Growing up, one of my easier life goals was to be in a video game that I thought would never happen. And 2007 rolls around, and it's like, okay, I've lived. Like, I'm in a video game now. What do I do now? I guess I'll get a job. I don't know.
Awesome.
But
well, that's. I mean, you definitely got one of them. I mean, that's great. That's I actually still funny story. I actually just got Connor's old PS2. He gave it to me because I was really wanting to play some old PS2 games, and I actually have NCAA 07. So I think I'm gonna have to go hook it up and find you. So how can my listeners engage with you now?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram, Big Jess T. That's the old AOL scream name from 6th grade, and it's just stuck the whole time. And I post a lot about UAB and Gardendale and band and corgis and video games. I'm a giant video game nerd. I dabble a little bit in streaming video games. I'm a big World of Warcraft player. Well, big as in a filthy casual, but the Twitch is not Big Jess T because I changed it trying to do something different. It's Nuclear Berry Sacks, all one word. The Facebook, but it's most of the content that's on Instagram. And that's pretty much it.
Okay. And final question, and it's something I always do for all of my guests, a lighthearted question to keep you on your toes. If you can have dinner with anyone in history, who would it be?
Oh, I'm gonna. This is so Gene Bartow. It's got to be the man, the myth, the legend. It's got to be. Spent so many nights leaving women's games, pointing at that statue, right back at it, and the Southern Miss game, the first one we won, it was a big cancer research night, and I was back on the field picking up people's instruments after we have an equipment crew that helps move the podiums and making sure everything was cleared, and they're doing the golf carts off, and I'm like underneath the field goal, and he looks over my way and points, and I point back, and then about 30 seconds later I went, that's bleeping Gene Bartow just pointing at me. So that's my random Gene Bartow story. I have a picture of him autographed in my office, but I know that's supposed to be more fun, like Mickey Mouse or somebody.
No,
but
I can totally. I honestly, I'm not gonna lie, and not to make you sound like I could expect what you were gonna say, but I expected you were gonna say Gene Bartow, but I can't deny that he's in my top 5 at least, and he'd definitely be somebody I'd want to sit down and have dinner with again. I mean, that'd be nice. I love the answers, Jess. Thank you for your time tonight. I know my listeners are going to enjoy it.
Thanks for letting people tell their stories. It's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Love it.
Yeah, man. All right. I want to thank Jess Taylor for being on the 4th episode of The Dragon's Den. It was great getting to know Jess. Growing up, a Blazer fan. I was born in 1994, so really getting into my formative ages in teenage years and stuff. Jess started at UAB in 2004, so it was great seeing him at games. And I always remember telling my siblings at games that we were always on the lookout for the long-haired redhead guy playing the saxophone. And Jess is a great guy, and it was great getting to know him a little bit better outside of his band days, and getting to know him now as an alumnus and as a diehard fan, and a great band director. And if you haven't had a chance to go see his kids at Gardendale High School, they're doing a great job. And once again, it was just really great having him on. So, and thank you guys for listening. I have really enjoyed the first 4 episodes so far. Mo and Ryan Keedy and Lee Dufour and now Jess. It's been interesting, and it's been a lot of fun. Got to know a lot about these guys, and looking forward to the future. I've got a few Blazer greats waiting their turn in line. I know it's frustrating. I really want to get to all of them right now, but got a few former Blazer greats, from football, baseball, women's basketball waiting their turn. So be on the lookout for those announcements and when they're coming. And in the meantime, you can go and check out my social pages. I'm posting daily, whether it be Q&As or interesting facts and stats. For instance, like my Friday giveaway this past week, I gave away some great prize packs. Congrats to my 2 winners. I really hope they enjoy them. And if you missed out, don't feel too bad. I've got another Friday giveaway coming up next month in October. Gonna line it up, with the first week of October to kind of correlate with the UTSA game for football, and got some great prizes coming up again. So, like I said, don't feel too bad. I've got another one coming. You can check all this out on my social pages. Like I said, Facebook, Twitter, and now Instagram. All have the handle at Dragon's Den EFEL. Once again, that's at Dragon's Den EFEL. That's ever faithful, ever loyal. So, with all that being said, thank you guys for listening again. Stay tuned for my next episode coming up in 2 weeks. And in the meantime, good night and go Blazers.